And speaking of which, that brings me to an incredible opportunity this year has provided. I mean, of course, 2020 has been a bit of a strange one. Some unpredicted things have happened this year, but what has happened, it has allowed us to have access to some international names. And one of the major positives of this virtual celebration is the ability to widen our scope. And so we are so excited to announce the international keynote speaker for this evening is Farina Contractor. For those of you who don't know, Farina is the Director of International Emerging Tech Innovation at Walmart, that little startup. But she wasn't always in this industry. Her career has spanned different industries and countries, and there's no one better to tell Farina's story than herself. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy. Take it away, Farina.
$2.6 million people in Australia are experiencing psychological distress. This number has increased to 10.6% since 2017. More than ever before, resilience matters. Hi everyone, I'm Fareena. I lead the emerging tech team at Walmart, and I'm here to talk to you today about resilience and some lessons I've learned along my journey. Like I said, today I lead an emerging tech team at Walmart, but if you'd asked me 10 years ago if this is what I'd be doing, I would have said no. Because 10 years ago, I was working on developing the swine flu vaccine. In India, I had a degree in molecular genetics, and so working in technology at Walmart was the furthest thing from my mind. And along the way, my journey has been completely unconventional and windy. And after I did my genetics degree, I decided that I wanted to sell cable, going door to door in Canada, in one of the coldest places in the world, much to the disappointment of my parents. From there, I decided I wanted to stay in business. I decided to pursue an MBA in Toronto. And before doing that, I worked in the motorsports industry. I worked for a commercial real estate firm, doing that part-time in my MBA. So really a lot of this, doesn't connect as much to Walmart, or so I thought. Following my MBA, I worked at Walmart. I started off working in a Walmart store, doing everything from unpacking boxes, stocking shelves, cash, fresh, just everything that you can think of. Best experience ever was like a boot camp at Walmart. Following that, I did a ton of different rotations in e-commerce and merchandising, did one in innovation and technology, strategy, and decided that I wanted to follow a leader as opposed to a job function. And that's sort of how I ended up in technology, and grew up within Walmart to finally lead the innovation team. Before that, I was leading a tech operations team focused on large-scale implementation. And so as you can see, this journey has been windy, lots of ups and downs, and that brings me to the first lesson that I learned, which is that we cannot see the forest through the trees, and you just have to have faith. And this is something that really, during my experiences, especially when I was, in the thick of winter in minus 60 degrees Celsius in Canada, knocking on doors, I couldn't really see how what I was doing would impact my future, because we're just not good at seeing that future. So you really just have to have faith and make sure that you're learning every step of the way. And today, if you ask me, how does what you learned tie into what you do today, every single point and milestone on that graph that I showed you, no matter how disappointed my parents were with my choices, had an impact to what I do today. So let's take my degree in molecular genetics. that was something that helps me today, that rigorous scientific methodology in innovation. That is an absolute must. You have to start off with a hypothesis. You have to continuously figure out how to solve that problem. And that mindset and way of thinking absolutely impacted what I do today. My door-to-door sales experience taught me how to bring someone on board in less than a couple seconds. If you're not building a connection or trust with a person who's never met you before, you're standing at their doorstep, they don't really want to hear from you, that ability to influence helps me massively today when I need to influence people at a boardroom table, whatever that might be, my team, different people within the organization. That ability to sell and influence is critical, probably the most critical than anything else that you could think of. Moving forward, thinking through how my MBA in design thinking is helping me, that process of problem identification, problem analysis, building empathy with the customer, and brainstorming, prioritizing, experimenting, all ties in. And if I thought back to my experiences individually, at no point did I think that it would have culminated in this point, leading an international emerging technology team. But every experience, every big milestone has helped get me to this point. And so it's a hard lesson to just kind of have faith. But I think that as long as you're learning throughout the process, that's what's important. And this kind of ties into the second lesson, which is resilience is a state of mind. And a lot of the times when we're faced with challenges, or we're having a tough day at work, or there's someone that's just giving you a really hard time, we're stuck at this problem, we're not able to move forward. In our generation, it's easy to just flip open your phone. What age am I living in? Turn on your iPhone and, flip through your Instagram feed. It's just a distraction. You're distracting your mind from your reality, and you're not sitting in that uncomfortable situation. You're not reflecting. So I would say try and avoid, Netflix, and try and avoid just distracting your mind, because you have to understand, you have to reflect on what is it that's challenging you? What is it that life is really trying to teach you? And all of my most challenging experiences have been learning experiences. And in that moment, maybe I'm not excited to experience it, but what I've learned over time is to reframe. And reframing is your mind. Any roadblock that you have is your own roadblock. And I'll give you an example back to my time knocking on doors. The first couple of weeks, I did miserably. I couldn't sell. And that was because I would stand at someone's doorstep and thought, if I was on the other side of this door, I would just slam the door in someone's face and I wouldn't care about what they said. And slowly I learned to reframe that and get over my own mental barrier. And what I started thinking about was, how do I help that customer in the best way possible? And not everyone's going to want what I have, but some people I can truly help save them money or give them exactly what they need. And so reframing challenging situations is important. And I can tell you that little mental flip had such a huge impact. I went from being the bottom salesperson to the topmost, just in that one little reframing of my mind. And today, when I'm faced with challenging situations, yes, I still have the initial response of frustration or discomfort, but what I try and do is sit in it and understand what is the lesson that I need to learn. And a really wise man that I met along my innovation journey told me this. He said, ask yourself, give your problem a name. So let's say I'm having a challenge with a team member, and let's say I get, his name is Greg. I say, Professor Greg, what is the lesson you were trying to teach me? And just that little flip to, instead of why am I in this situation, saying, what is the lesson that I'm not learning that I need to learn, completely changes the attitude, the mindset to a positive, constructive space. And then you're focused on the learning, and truly every challenging situation has a nugget of learning in there. And I can tell you, I'm so grateful for some of the learnings and challenges that I've had early in my career, because I can tell you that those challenges and learnings today would be a lot more costly than they were at that point in time. And lastly, resilience requires practice. You are never done. When Holly asked me to come speak to you today on the topic of resilience, in all honesty, I didn't think that that was the topic that differentiated me. But as I shared my journey, Holly noticed that that was the consistent theme. And then it was a lesson that I learned, that I'm never going to be resilient. Like, you're never going to get to that destination, because that destination is just so grand. It's so perfect. And we're not perfect people. No person is perfect. And if you were, life would be quite boring. So I would say being resilient requires practice and requires progress. You're never going to attain perfection. It's about progress. And so, what I want to leave you with are some tangible steps, things that you can do tomorrow to help build that resilience muscle. And here I've collected 10 ways, scientific backed ways, that can help you build resilience. And one of my friends shared with me, don't wait till you are on empty to think about how to re-energize yourself and keep yourself back up. You need to consistently keep your tank at full to ensure that you're resilient. And sometimes, for people that are really ambitious, what we can sometimes say is, when I accomplish this, I'll go treat myself, versus I'm going to constantly treat myself and do the right things for me so that I can continue to push the boundaries and I'm never going to get to empty. And so these are 10 ways that will help. And even if you pick just a couple of them to start building good habits, it will help you. And I'll just quickly go through them. Eat well, exercise, rest, meditate, sit in that discomfort and just clear your mind. Create. This could be anything. We all have elements of creativity. It doesn't have to be a Michelangelo piece. Whatever it is, whatever your creative outlet is, figure out how to create something. Connect with yourself, connect with others. This one is super simple, and I think everyone should just start implementing this right away. Smile. When you smile, your body has a chemical reaction that helps bring you more into a positive space. This is the most simple one. And when you smile, everyone just looks so much brighter and more positive and approachable. This is one that you need to start doing now. The next one, give back. When you give back, you get so much more in return. This is one of those things that, the more you give, the more you get. Gratitude list. Every morning, sit down and write 3 things that you're grateful for. And it doesn't have to be the most lofty things. Just, your family being safe and healthy, you being safe and healthy is enough to be grateful for, because not everyone has that. And the last one is experience new things. The last time I was in Australia, I did so many new things. I went scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef. I went skydiving for the first time. It was one of the most energizing trips I'd ever had. Australia really is a fun place to be, and I have tons of wonderful memories. And with that, I thank you all for your time, and just want to say a thank you to Holly and the organizing team for setting up such a wonderful event. I think women supporting women is important, and even men and different people supporting women is important. And to all of the award winners, congratulations, you deserve it.
Look, there are a few keynotes that I took from that keynote. First one is she lives in Canada, and everybody in America is probably very jealous of her right now at the moment. I know I am. Second one, she's got a baby grand that I would never be able to afford.
It was an absolute flex. It was a Kauai.
It was a babe. It was a babe. What was the other one?
I felt like she brought up some recurring themes of there are many paths to success. I mean,
but she leveled up really quickly.
I mean, yeah, like
she doesn't look older than 20.
We don't work.
She leveled up quick.
Yeah. I mean, she's above us, but like, what are some of the jobs that you've had, Waveney, that have led you to this musical, successful place?
Well, I worked in retail, as a lot of us probably all have, which made me resilient. Keywords. Math lady is trying to figure out the keywords.
Well, I used to be a funeral singer when I was at university, which gave me the propensity to turn off my emotions a little bit.
I don't know if that's a brag that I would be having in this space, but funeral singer, I'm into it.
Well, I was also a high school teacher. Actually, what came to my mind when hearing Farina was the idea of changing your mindset. And while I took her advice to watch less Netflix quite personally, I did think to myself when I couldn't help but nodding my head when she was saying, you can reframe problems in your mind. And I know that when I was a high school teacher, there's a lot of emotions and hormones going on then, a lot of crying, and I didn't know how to calm those situations down, and mine.
Right.
And my supervisor said to me, rather than approaching crying children and saying, what's wrong, you should say, how can I help you? And it kind of changed my whole mindset there. I mean, I retired a year later, but that's another whole story.
That's why she looks so old for an Asian.
I'm 18, but I've aged very poorly.